The 2025 Seattle Seahawks unleashed a defense so relentless it sent shockwaves through the NFL, ranking second in the league in quarterback pressures. Week after week, their dark side defense was the engine behind their Super Bowl run, suffocating offenses and seizing momentum at every snap. And then, with the whole world watching, their elite pass rush shined on the biggest stage, dominating a Patriots team that was woefully unprepared for the storm that would hit them. But now, as free agency looms, the question on every fan's mind is, can the Seahawks maintain their defensive dominance if they were to lose two of their top pass rushers? Stay tuned, because the future of Seattle's dark side defense is hanging in the balance. Seahawks fans, welcome back to the 12's War Room. Thank you for joining us today. This is episode 2, where today we will be doing Mock Draft 1.1. In our last episode, we did 1.0, and today will be a variation on that with just some slight differences. Before we jump in and go for that Mock Draft 1.1, why don't I go ahead and recap for you our last mock draft, and I'll explain to you afterwards how we go about doing this on this channel. So in our last draft, we went under the assumption that we were going to have some losses this offseason to our roster. We know that Zach Charbonnet is going to be out for a significant part of the season with that torn ACL that he suffered in the divisional round, so we're going to need running back help. We assumed that in this scenario that we went for in Mock Draft 1.0, that we were going to lose 3 of our players to free agency, and those 3 are Boye Mafe, Tariq Woolen, and Kobe Bryant. And so we approached our Mock Draft 1.0 with those needs in mind. So I'm going to show you now the results of 1.0. You can see that we did manage to draft a player in each of the slots that we were going to be missing players. With our first pick, we picked up Brandon Cisse, a great-looking cornerback out of South Carolina, to take Tariq Woolen's spot. Then with our next pick, we picked up Derek Moore, a strong-looking edge rusher out of Michigan. Then with our third pick, we grabbed Treydon Stukes, who is listed as a slot corner out of Arizona. We believe that he could fill that role that Kobe Bryant has taken on. As you may remember, Kobe Bryant was drafted as a slot corner and then developed into an excellent safety, and I believe that Stukes could have that same type of career development ahead of him. With our following pick, we grabbed a guard out of Iowa, Bo Stevens. This pick was for those of you who are members of the Anthony Bradford fan club. We just wanted to make sure that you were loved and included as well. No, I'm kidding. We do owe it to ourselves to pick up a guard in the draft if at all possible, and we believe Stevens is a good match for that. Then with our last pick, we picked up Mike Washington Jr., a tough running back out of Arkansas. He should be able to immediately come in and provide competition with George Holani and Kenny McIntosh and others to fill the role that Zach Charbonnet had this year. The assumption, again, is that in this scenario, that we re-sign Ken Walker Jr. So we really just need that second running back to spell him and to keep him fresh and healthy for hopefully another Super Bowl MVP run, right? So now our draft today is going to look very similar to the 1.0 that we did the other day. This one is just going to introduce a little wrinkle in which we include a cap casualty, and we'll go over that in just a minute. I want to go over our methodology of how we go about doing these mock drafts here. Again, this is not about me trying to tell you what I think John Schneider should do. It's also not about me trying to predict what John Schneider will do. This is simply about me showing you different paths for how they might approach the draft and how they might rebuild the team given the different scenarios that we face. If these free agents leave or if these guys get cut, this is the type of draft focus that we might have. So that's our whole purpose that we're going into these videos on. So you can see on the screen here, these are the pending unrestricted free agent starters that we have. These are the guys that we are in danger of losing. For this scenario, Mock Draft 1.1, I'm going to assume, same as 1.0, that we are going to lose Kobe Bryant, Tariq Woolen, Boye Mafe. As much as I love each of those players for different reasons, they're each going to, in this scenario, walk in free agency and go off and get paid a ton of money, and I'm really happy for them, but they're going to go play for another team this year, and we need to figure out how to replace them, and our primary method of doing that is through the draft. So those are the three players and the three spots that are created as needs for us now. And then the wrinkle that I mentioned earlier that we're going to throw into Mock Draft 1.1 is that we are going to assume in this scenario that we also lose Uchenna Nwosu. By lose, I mean that we are going to cut him because he is tops on the list of the potential cap savings for veteran players. We could save $11.5 million on the cap with $8.5 million of dead money, but that cap savings could give us some flexibility if we needed it. So for this scenario, you quickly see that we have some needs similar to before, and they're not all that different. Cornerback, edge, running back, and safety are the ones that I'm highlighting here because of these departures and because of Zach Charbonnet's injury. I still think wide receiver is a good position to look at. We have an aging Cooper Kupp who just played one of his healthiest seasons, which is fantastic, but I'm not sure if we can count on that again. Likewise, Torrey Horton. Not sure what his health is going to be like going forward. We expect him to be healthy, but that's a college year that he was hurt for, and now this year as well. Inside offensive line, this is primarily guard. You can throw center into that as well. Again, some of you think that this maybe should be at the very top of our list because Anthony Bradford and that right guard position is probably the position that we could most easily upgrade. I know a lot of my favorite personalities and analysts, Mina Kimes and others, really think that inside offensive line is the number one need in this draft. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that it's an important piece of the draft if we can get one, but I believe other pieces are more important, in particular in this scenario where we lose two of our edge rushers. Linebacker is there last on our list of needs, but today I'm going to actually switch kind of that order of priority from cornerback to edge. Again, because we're losing two of our edge rushers, our pass rush may suffer if we don't do something about it. As you guys know, we don't have a true game-wrecking, sack-leading pass rusher. We have waves of good, solid, rotational guys. We have four primary pass rushers. Boye Mafe and Uchenna Nwosu are two of them. The other guys, of course, are Derek Hall and DeMarcus Lawrence. So in this scenario, we're looking at losing half of our starting rotation of edge rushers, which creates a big need. So that's how we're going to approach Mock Draft 1.1 with those needs in mind. And we should be able to cover a lot of those needs. We don't have a ton of draft capital like we've gone over before, but we believe that with John Schneider's ability to trade, usually trade back, and create more draft capital, that we should be able to fill some of those needs. So we're going to head over now to PFF and get started on Mock Draft 1.1. So here we go. Let's get this set up for the style of draft that we like. I usually, again, like to tinker with these things just a little bit. In particular, I like to add some randomness because you can never predict what GMs and owners might do. We're going to go ahead and do a full 7-round draft this time, and we'll get this thing kicked off. Again, our primary needs are edge rusher, corner, safety, running back, and then if we can get a guard, if we can get a receiver, if we can get a linebacker, great. Right off the bat, we can see that a very tempting player has fallen to us here. I strongly doubt that Vega is going to be available at pick 32. Many consider him to be the best guard in the draft. All of our members of the Anthony Bradford fan club right now are screaming at the top of their lungs for me to take him. Let's just pause on that for just a second. We're going to see what else is available. We have a guy here, Akeem Mesidor. Again, edge is our primary need. Now, as you all know, John Schneider has said that he does not draft based on need, but he also recently clarified that even though they don't make their selections at the time based on need, they do set up their draft board of priority players based on the needs that they have. So there is an element of need in how they go about doing this. So let's keep that in mind. I like Vega here. It's hard to pass that up, but let's take a look. We've got Akeem Mesidor, a really strong looking edge rusher. Also a guy that I'm not sure will be available to us at pick number 32. You've got a pass rush grade of 92.5. Look at this. The productivity, 13 sacks, 4 hits, and 50 hurries. 50 hurries, guys, that's a Seahawks stat right there. As you guys know, the Seahawks were very good in this last year with sacking the quarterback. I think we were 7th overall in sacks, but our true strength came in our pressures. We were second to only the Broncos in total pressures this year, and that really made a lot of difference. So that is a Seahawks stat that I love. Remember, this guy played for Miami. You're talking about the runner-up, the College Football National Championship, played the best of the best competition that there is, and had a very strong year. One other Seahawks stat that I like is his run defense grade, 88.3. That's a Mike McDonald guy right there, a player who knows how to set the edge while doing his pass rush. That's super valuable. So we've got him on the board. We do still need other players at corner and everything else, but I like between Vega and Mesidor, I think those are the two guys that we need to decide between. I suppose we should probably take a look at what trade options are available to us. I do allow myself to make some trades without going overboard. I did a little research, and I don't think this will surprise many of you, but John Snyder is one of the more active general managers during the draft for draft day trades. There are some teams that don't do any trades, and there are some that do 1 or 2. John Snyder, on average, over his tenure with the Seahawks, has averaged somewhere between 2 and 4 trades each draft on the day of the draft. And so I usually am going to allow myself up to 3 trades just to kind of keep it reasonable. I don't want to take advantage of a system and take too many trades that it really wouldn't be reasonable. But let's go ahead and see what's available to us here. Here are the trades that we have available to us. Again, I can go in and I can propose my own trades, but I like to stick with the ones that are proposed to me, just again to kind of limit my taking advantage of the system to some degree. Occasionally I'll allow myself to do that, but for the most part I'll stick with the trades proposed. I like this particular trade because we're only going to go down 5 spots. Let's just kind of see what we think we could get out of this. If we move down 5 spots, and my rule of thumb is to keep the trade chance of acceptance above 50%. So this is sitting at 56%. We could trade back 5 spots and pick 105, 143, and 185. That would go a long way in replenishing the draft capital that we gave up in trades like for Rashid Shaheed. Now, I like this trade, but I am struggling to get past Vega. He is sitting there, and we're going to take him. He's the best player available. He meets a position of need for us. I know we need edge and corner and other guys, but it's impossible for me to pass up on a guy who may be the best player at his position in this draft. So we're going to take Vega. That does limit our ability to trade later on, because that high round pick gives you much more return. And so we're going to have to get a little more creative and aggressive here if we're going to increase our draft capital. Here we are at pick number 64. There are no edge rushers that really stick out to me. I'm not a huge fan of Anthony Lucas based on some of the numbers that I see from him. And there's really not a whole lot of guys as you go down. So this could be, another position of need is running back, Jadarian Price. He's also a guy that I don't know is going to be there at pick 64. In fact, I think today ESPN did a mock draft, and he went in the first round. So we'll see if this is realistic or not for him to be sitting there. Let's go ahead and take a look at what trade option is available. Boy, the only one on here drops us all the way to 91. That's a little big of a drop for me right now. We still have some big needs. I'm going to go ahead and take Price. I think he might be the best player on the board at this point, and even though it's not one of our primary needs, it is a need, and we are going to go ahead and take him. Now we're getting really limited again. Usually when I do these mock drafts, I like to trade out of my first or second pick because you can create a lot of value with those picks. But here we go. Once again, we are going with the best player on the board that we can find a place for. And so now we're going to be really limited in what we can do. Pick number 96 on the clock now. We have no trade offers, so this is really getting interesting. We may walk out of this draft with some holes let, so we're going to see. Okay, we've got Mikael Kamara. This is a good edge rusher, I believe. Pretty solid grades. Lot of hurries. Again, productive guy against tough competition. He's a national champion. Played against all the best teams. Pretty decent run defense grade, so I like him here. Do I like him enough to essentially end our draft? Because our next pick is going to be all the way in 212, and we will not have met any of the rest of our needs. I'm struggling with this a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and bend my little rule. I don't want to take this pick. I'm going to try to trade back just a little bit here. We're going to trade back to, let's see if the Raiders, they've been a good trade partner for us in the last year or two. Let's go ahead and see if they're willing to give us anything. Okay, if we move back from 96 to 102, they may be willing to give us pick 134, 55% chance to be accepted. Let's see if they do it. They did. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and see how this shakes out. We did just miss out on Kamara, so he is now gone. We did pick up another draft pick. Still no trade offered to me, so holy smokes, we are struggling this time around on trades. Okay, we have a couple players here that are in positions of needs. However, they are secondary needs, wide receiver and linebacker. Chris Brazzell, the second here, wide receiver out of Tennessee. You've got a pretty good receiving grade, very productive, 1,000-yard season, 9 touchdowns. He did have a down year last year, but he bounced back nicely this year. What I think people are really attracted to for Brazzell is this 6'5" frame. That's pretty attractive in the receiver world. So he's someone that we could keep our eyes on. I like linebackers, and again, it's not a primary position of need. A player I really like is Jacob Rodriguez here out of Texas Tech, one of the most productive linebackers you'll see in college football this last year. 93 overall grade, one of the best grades given to any and all players out there. Not only is he good in coverage, 92.3, but his run defense is solid at 94.8. I question whether or not he will be here at pick 102. That seems like a long ways for him. I think some of the analysts out there are not big on him because of maybe some of his measurables, his size, and things like that. Seahawks fans, I think, will appreciate this. You may not like him for his size and measurables at 6'1", 235 pounds. It does sound fairly small for a linebacker, but go look up Drake Thomas. He's smaller than Jacob Rodriguez. And Drake Thomas balled out this year. I was so impressed with him. I'm not really sure I'm ready to replace him just yet, but he's a restricted free agent this year. And so we can get him back fairly cheaply this year. But of course, next year, if he plays this coming year with the same ferocity that he played with this last year, he's going to be in line for a much bigger extension, and he may be difficult to keep. So picking Jacob Rodriguez up right now may not seem like the best pick for this year, but I think for next year, he could be ready to jump in and take over at that linebacker spot for Drake Thomas if we do lose him next year in free agency. So I like this as an option. Now, one other player that we're going to keep our eyes on down here, ranked 121st, Ndame Tucker. Plays out of Western Michigan, a smaller school. His competition is still fairly strong. And this guy, again, another very highly rated pass rusher on PFF with a 93.3, a pretty solid run defense grade of 72.6, 41 hurries, collected 14 sacks. Again, this may not be the biggest and best competition out there, but I think this guy could be worth taking a flyer on. 6'3", 250, so let's keep him in mind. Okay, and lastly on our list of options down here, we still have not taken a cornerback, and so we have no one to replace Reek Woolen. We do have Davison Igbinison, and I'm hopefully pronouncing his name correctly, but I like this guy. He's out of Ohio State, so again, you know he's playing the best competition that there is. Solid grade of 81.5. That comes in coverage, and even a little bit better in run defense grade. If you're Mike McDonald, you love cornerbacks who are good in the run defense. allowed a 42.6 passer rating this last year, didn't give up any touchdowns, and had less than 50% completion rate. Not a small guy at 6'2". I really like him as well. So we've got a tough decision to make here. We've got one pick, and we've got a tall receiver. We've got one of the best linebackers in college football. We've got a flyer, kind of a pick, with Ndamukong Tucker here as an edge rusher, which is our primary position of need in this draft. And then we've got Igbenison, who I think is a great option at cornerback. We're not going to be able to get more than one of these guys, most likely. We're going to go ahead and grab Ndamukong Tucker. I know this is a bit of a reach, and this is based on our need. I think this guy, if he hits, he could be one of the better pass rushers that we get. And at the end of the day, we need him as a rotational thing, so I'm willing to take a flyer on this guy. So we're going to grab him. That's going to leave us with our next pick at 134, and we'll see if any of the other guys that we liked happen to fall. Whew, well, look at this. Our cornerback survived all the way to 134. There are some trade options, but I'm not even gonna entertain those. We are gonna grab him and run as fast as we can. And that's gonna leave us with one last pick. So I should fast forward this here. Okay, now we're on the clock with pick 212. There are some decent players here this late in the draft, which is good. Let's just review what we've done so far, and then we can make an educated decision with our final pick. We've picked up a guard to compete with Anthony Bradford. We've picked up a great running back to go and complement Kenneth Walker. We've picked up kind of a flyer on the edge, and then a solid cornerback that I think should come in and immediately compete to take over that Reek Woolen spot. So we have not really fully satisfied our edge because we are missing two and we're only picking up one. We have not done anything to address our safety vacancy with Kobe Bryant leaving, and so far we have not done anything with receiver or linebacker. So let's see what's available to us now. We've got a solid cornerback here, but he really is kind of more of a slot guy. I don't know if he could turn into that Kobe Bryant role or not. I'm not sure. We've got a couple of good running backs out of Indiana here. Both of these guys had a very solid, productive year. I believe they were both over 1,000 yards. We've got Ephesians Prysock from my alma mater. I do like him. You're talking about a big 6'4" corner. He actually fits the Tariq Woolen mold. He's not as fast as Woolen is, but he's got the height and the length. Pretty good in the run game as well, so this is not somebody to pass over lightly. He did not have the greatest of years for the Huskies. Frankly, none of the Huskies' defensive players had wonderful years. He gave up 5 touchdowns. So again, this is round 6 here, so we're not going to find Mr. Perfect. Let's see what else we got. Okay, because edge was still our primary position of need, I don't see anybody on here that I'm just dying to get. I like these running backs, but we have price. I like Ephesians Prysock. We do have a corner. I don't see like a safety or anything like that that really sticks out to me. So we're going to go ahead and filter this by edge rushers and see who we got here. Okay, here, so we're skipping over some guys that don't have a ton of production. We're going to go to a guy who has a ton of production, albeit at New Mexico. So not the greatest of competition in the world, but it's not nobody either. He did have to play against Michigan, UCLA, and a couple other teams that are, nothing to bat their eyes at. So, but if you look at his numbers, he's had 3 solid years, very good career in college football with a smaller school, but his pass rush grade is great, pretty solid in the run defense. He's not the biggest guy in the world, but he's solid and he should be fast. And I just like the production. 10 sacks, 9 hits, and again, 55 hurries. He's a lot like Ndamukong Tucker from the standpoint that smaller school, might be a little bit of a flyer on him. I would have loved to have taken maybe some of the bigger named guys in the edge rush market earlier in the draft, but I just couldn't pass up on the guys that were there at other positions. I'm going to go ahead and take Keyshawn James Newby. I think he could be yet another one of those guys that could come in. You're just looking for a rotational guy who's solid in the run game and who can hurry and pressure the quarterback. So we're going with him. And that concludes our draft. So now let's look and see how we graded out. PFF is not going to love this draft. And if I'm being totally honest with you, I'm not sure that I love this draft. I don't think it's terrible. It's not a total disaster, but it's not really what I had in mind. So right off the bat, of course, they love us taking Vega at pick number 32. This was a great value at a position of what they consider one of our bigger needs, what a lot of people consider one of our bigger needs. So that's a good possible upgrade over Anthony Bradford at right guard. From a running back standpoint, this is also a very solid pick. Again, I don't know that price will be available to us at pick number 64, but we should get a running back at some point in the offseason, whether through free agency or the draft. Even if we do retain Kenneth Walker, we need to bring some competition in. He's a great guy to do that. Skipping, I'll save edge rusher for last. Looking at cornerback, I do think Davison Igbonison is a good, solid potential competitor for that third or second, I guess, if you will, cornerback spot. Assuming we do keep Job, this would be the guy who would come in those nickel and dime packages and cover the outside for us. And they like that pick, and so do I. Again, Ohio State, good player there. They did not love our edge rusher picks, and this was our number one area of need. I'm not sure I'm thrilled about these. These are both kind of raw, small school guys with some talent, but we're not sure if the production is going to translate to the NFL. So these could be flyers. These guys could never make it off the practice squad, to be honest. And if that's the case, we may have some struggles when it comes to our pass rush. We hopefully in this scenario would maybe address some things in free agency. But the hard part about that is that free agency starts here in just a couple of weeks, well before the draft. And even though there are quite a few solid edge rushers available in free agency, there's going to be a flurry of activity on all the best edge rushers, and they're all going to be long gone by the time we get to the draft. So if we don't pick up an edge rusher in free agency and then our draft does fall this way, yeah, that could be an interesting scenario. We would have to really hope that one or both of these guys turns out to be better than what PFF thinks they'll be. Stepping back over now to our war room, we're going to take a look and kind of give our own evaluation of this draft class that we got. So again, our needs were pretty heavy at edge rusher. Cornerback, safety, running back were our primary areas of need, with some other areas of secondary need. We did a little bit more work on the areas of secondary need than I thought we would have. That's just sort of how the draft fell to us. Mike McDonald sometimes talks about letting the game speak to you, and I think the draft kind of spoke to us today. I don't think this was a terrible draft. We have a solid opportunity to upgrade our biggest weak spot at right guard. We did an adequate job of replacing cornerback, and I think we did a good job of filling in that need at running back. What remains to be seen is did we hit a home run at edge, or have we struck out miserably? That will be a big storyline going into the offseason under this. We also didn't do anything to replace that safety position with the departure of Kobe Bryant. This isn't the biggest disaster in the world in my mind by not filling that safety role. We do have Ty Okada. He is a free agent, but he is an exclusive rights free agent, which means the team has significant control over him, and the cost to keep him will be very, very low. So I think under this scenario, Ty Okada will be a starting safety for us this coming year. And frankly, he played a lot of snaps this last year and did a very good job of it. So I'm not too concerned about that. Would have liked to get somebody to fill that role, but I'm perfectly okay running with Ty Okada this year. We didn't do anything to address any type of need at wide receiver or linebacker or any other position. And so this draft, I guess when I look at it overall, this was not my favorite mock draft that I've ever done, in particular because of the holes that I think that we might still have on the edge rusher side of things. That's just how the draft came to us, though. You know, it'd be pretty easy for me to go off camera, let's say, and do a mock draft where I hit this home run with edge rushers, and then I grab that video and I plug it in here to this episode so that it looks like we really accomplished our mission. That's just not how the draft works sometimes. Sometimes the draft goes against you in the ways that you really wanted it to go. And so that was sort of just one of these times, and we just have to make the best of the situation that we can. I think in this situation, we did okay. Not great, but we did okay. So this was not a perfect draft, but honestly, we're a strong team, and we can stand to take chances on some guys. Ty Okada was a big chance this year. Drake Thomas was a big chance this year. And those chances paid off because they played within the Mike McDonald defense. And I have faith in that. And so even though some of these guys may be stretched a little bit, I would believe that we'd be able to pull this off successfully and make another good run at a Super Bowl. In episode 2, we were reminded just how difficult this process really is. Building a balanced draft class sounds simple until you're on the clock. You recognize a serious need at edge rusher, but when the board falls a certain way, can you really pass on the clear best player available? That's the tension. That's the war room. And if you thought that decision was tough, episode 3 is about to turn everything upside down when a surprise retirement changes the equation. The 12's war room is about to heat up.